we will have it without the intro.
You'll decide.
Yeah.
Bachelor's degree was business and computer science.
All right.
Master's was social work.
How does that align? I mean, like,
It works perfect for me. I mean, I'm the CEO of a group practice.
disease versus disorder.
Disease is typically viewed from the brain, and the self-support views it kind of from the soul. Where gambling disorder is a clinical term that we use that is in the DSM-5. So it's semantics.
You know, I destroyed my life because I was gaming too much.
The governments make money from it. So I guess the government would have to tax gaming.
That's an interesting idea. There would be a good money out of it.
You should gamble with me. I'll be that little voice behind you that says, I know you almost won, but you lost.
Right. Hi, Jody.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. I'm so great that you were able to find a time, and especially we were able to find a place where the two of us are going to meet in person. Not like there was not enough opportunities in the past, because for the last 2 months, I think we met on, this is the third, no, it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be the third. You were supposed
Yes.
to be in Gibraltar.
Oh, yeah, I didn't make that one. But, you know, at least we can make it up with this one.
Exactly. Philippines, now Malta.
Yeah. So great to have you here. I'm going to start with the little introduction, and then I would like to focus on your background, as we do most of the time in these podcasts. So, Jody Bechtold, you are a gambling addiction expert, you're a trainer, you're a counselor. The main focus of yourself, I mean, currently is the Better Institute. You are the CEO. You are basically driving the organizations. As far as I understand, it basically serves individuals to make them be better, feel better.
Yeah.
Right.
It's where you go to get better.
Right. Yes. It sounds pretty easy. I mean, like, get better. How do you make people better?
Well, there's 6 of us. So there's 6 clinicians.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of times it's not just the individual, it's the whole family. So when somebody comes in for care, most of the time it's for gambling addiction or gambling disorder. We're also looking at the family member, the partner, spouse, children, and how we can treat the whole family. So one person coming in for care requires up to 3 clinicians when it's all said and done.
3 clinicians.
Somebody has to work with the family member. Someone works with the whole family. You know, it may be couples counseling or relationship counseling. And we do that because we're trying to save one family at a time. And we're able to collaborate better with each other. So, if you have 3 clinicians that aren't under the same organization, they don't talk.
Right. So it's a full package.
It's a full package, yes.
But it's not only gambling addiction.
It's not. We're all trained in mental health and addiction, substance use as well. However, we do a lot with gambling addiction for a couple of reasons, because it's just exploded in the United States, as you know, across Europe and things.
So that's why we are here today. And we're going to talk about it later, hopefully. But in the beginning, I mean, the question would be, what was your journey towards gambling, or rather say to the area of reduction of gambling harm? Because, it's like an overreaching term. That's the ultimate goal, and there are multiple ways how to achieve that. To end up here, in this position, doing this kind of work. And if you can conclude it, just go through the journey, like how you ended up here. And then what drives you, Jody, keep doing that?
Yeah. I actually did a career change. So I was in the corporate world, and I went back to school right around when I was 30. Don't want to date myself too much, right? And I went back and got my clinical degree. And I started immediately working in the addiction space.
Right.
But it was all substance use. And so where I live in Pennsylvania, probably about 5 years into my new career, our state expanded legalized gambling. And I was like, I want to learn about this. And I thought it would be a really short wave. I would take a couple trainings and that's it. And I took some trainings and I loved it. You know, every clinician, if they're really honest, will say that certain disorders really grab them and that other disorders don't. And so addiction and especially gambling was something that really grabbed me. So I just started kind of pursuing it. I had a caseload of one person at a time. You know, it's not like you hung a shingle outside and said, gamblers, come here.
Yes, yes.
And I just got really involved. And the problem gambling field itself is very small and mighty. And so I would go to a conference and I was like, wow, these are my people. I love this. And I just never looked back. And so because I was also a professor, I was able to teach future colleagues about gambling disorder because none of the universities were required to talk about it or teach it. And so my name just kept getting out there. So I was a natural trainer and would train on, you know, treating gambling disorders. And so I just got very well known for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very common story that once people start to doing some work around this area, it's very difficult to get out because perhaps it's because there is still so much to do and so much to explore and find the right way or the things that can create really big changes. But let me get this straight. You have a career change. So you took another kind of education.
Yeah, I had to get my master's degree.
Master's 5 years?
Just two.
Just two. So you use the baseline. So you've had the social work? Social work, right?
Yeah.
And so you make like a second level of it.
Yeah, so bachelor's degree was business and computer science.
All right. Business and computer science.
And master's was social work.
How does that align? I mean, like...
It works perfect for me. I mean, I'm the CEO of a group practice.
It does. I mean, you are a great example that it worked, but I cannot imagine in the academic world, or like, you want to study social work, but you've been doing computer science.
Yeah.
You know, like, you have to start with something else in order to get in here.
Yeah. Well, because it's a 2-year program, it starts at the baseline.
Yeah.
You need an undergrad degree to qualify. That's it. And then...
You know, I'm asking because I was kind of considering that, like, you know, I should get some kind of a proper education around this. So I have international relations, and I thought, like, it would be very difficult to get into any, like, psychology stuff, social work stuff. But when you say that computer science was all right, I should try it in the U.S.
Business, yeah, you should try in the U.S. Right, yeah.
Okay. Back to the gambling treatment. So, actually, you are the first person on this podcast that is purely from the area of treatment. So I was talking with people working in the industry. I was talking with the people working on the stuff which are related to treatment, but not solely. And I'm going to ask possibly a trivial question, but I think that it is often overlooked. And it is that why is gambling treated? Is it some kind of a disease? Or, I mean, what is the reason that we put it like this? And then to expand it further, do you feel like more people are now aware that there are specific ways how to treat specifically gambling addiction or gambling disorder?
That's a lot there, Shimon.
Yeah, there is.
Right. So some people believe that addiction is a disease, and that's rooted in the 12-step, like Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. Some people really do struggle with multiple addictions over their lives. They might go from alcohol to gambling to gaming to cannabis, right? It almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so you can really say it's a disease, it's of the brain. But there's other people that get into gambling problems, and gambling was a solution for them because there was a bigger problem in their life and they didn't know how to solve it, so they were avoiding it. And when they come in for treatment, when they're able to solve that other problem, gambling isn't so difficult for them. They might not gamble anymore, but abstaining from it isn't as hard.
Right.
So there's always going to be a couple different profiles. We don't want to like put everybody in one size fits all.
Right, but then what would you say is the difference between looking at it as a disease versus disorder?
Disease is typically viewed from the brain, and the self-support views it kind of from the soul.
Right.
Okay. Where gambling disorder is a clinical term that we use that is in the DSM-5. So it's semantics, right?
Yes, right.
Who's saying it, right? Is the person themselves saying, I have a gambling addiction, or is a clinician saying, I'm diagnosing you with a gambling disorder?
Oh, right. It's like that one time when I went to a physician and I had an injury in my ankle and it was just twisted. Normally you would say twisted. But, I was filling up the form for the insurance and I used the word dislocated. And she was like, you don't use words like that, you twisted it. I use words like that.
Right.
Yeah, so now it's clear.
Yeah. And disorder, so one of the things we try and get away from is labeling people. So I don't call people problem gamblers because that's a label. So
Yeah.
I'll say an individual with a gambling problem.
Right.
Right. And so you'll see across, the country, across the globe, everybody's trying to be very mindful of the vocabulary. And you'll know when somebody's been around a long time if they
Use it like that, right?
You say problem gambler or a degenerate gambler. That's always a lovely
that's
one.
harsh. And, I think that it can make a lot of change to use it like this because, then you are drifting it all away from the stigma.
Right.
At least, that's what it's supposed to do. Like take it out of the person and make it as something that person is struggling with or going through.
Right. Which kind of leads to the second part of your question. Are more people understanding this? Are they more aware of it? And I would say that depends on the age group, maybe the geography. I think we're seeing a lot more people understand gambling problems because of the online and sports betting. Where I am in the States, there's still some states that don't have legal online and sports betting, and so they keep thinking casino and lottery. And there's still a lot of stigma. There's a lot of shame and stigma around it. Probably the thing that really we've got a lot of work to do is when people like these advertisements, these public service announcements, have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
1-800-GAMBLER.
But you know what? Nobody knows what. Do you have a gambling problem? They don't know what that looks like.
No.
I've had people come in and I said, so you're here to see me because of gambling? And they're like, I think so. Well, what got you here? Well, my partner was talking to his therapist about my gambling behavior.
Right.
And they thought I needed to see someone like you. Which clearly shows this person had no idea what a gambling problem looked like. So that whole public service announcement she wouldn't hear it, or he wouldn't hear it.
It's, perhaps from someone who has learned about online gambling and has the first kind of experience with not only online. I mean, I've experienced gambling before, but all the issues connected with it, I have learned about it from the perspective of responsible gambling.
Yeah.
So trying to basically decrease the gambling harm. And it is surprising to me, like how it could be hidden for individuals. So they are obviously spending too much time or too much money on that kind of activity. And they wouldn't feel like, this is the gambling problem that I'm having. And it is very common when you hear it from someone with lived experience.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea. And different people, different triggers, different situations when they were like, oh my God, this is not good. And it's just curious how it is. I think...
well, the responsible gambling is different when it's coming from the industry than when it's coming from the clinical. Because responsible gambling for us is harm reduction. So we have people come in for care and they actually don't want to abstain from gambling. They want to learn to gamble responsibly. And what we teach them is, follow certain rules, kind of have a harm reduction plan. Follow every rule all the time. Those are a lot of times somewhat similar, but not entirely to what industry has, right? So we're teaching people what other activities do you engage in. You can't just gamble as your sole activity. You have to set a time limit. You have to set a dollar limit or, funding. You have to, I'm trying to think of some of the other, we usually follow the 10 rules of responsible gambling, and we build a whole plan. Industry is still the setting limits and cool-offs, and then ultimately self-exclusion, and that's it. They're not really teaching anything else around how to gamble responsibly.
Yes. That's a very good point. And this is where it divergent from each other, you know, going opposite directions. Because then you are not focused, and if you think about it, that approach from the industry, it's not focused on the behavioral. It's not focused on like what is behind it, what is the other thing that you can do. It's going to tell you this is the limit, and now you hit the wall, and now whatever happens, like if it's going to be the gambling with another company, with another account, we wouldn't know. This is a...
Right. And so I would be working with the person to say, every choice has to reduce harm, not increase harm. So you can only gamble at one casino, not 3. You can only gamble online at one site, not multiple ones, because we know multiple sites would be increasing harm, not reducing harm. Right?
How can we align these two? Ever thought about this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, and I think part of what I do, which is not necessarily the same as a lot of people that are clinical, is I am involved a lot more in industry operator side. Obviously, being here.
Right.
Right. And so I do have a different lens than a lot of the clinical people do, the professionals. They just literally are just trying to stop the bleeding so people can heal.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get in front of it, right, and work together. I think the Ethical Gambling Forum was a really good example of how do you bring industry, the operators, the regulators, treatment, lived experience. How do you bring everybody to the table? Because I think that's how we're going to solve that.
Treatment is pretty often like
siloed,
distinct. I mean, yes, it's not in the same group. When you think about it, it is one of the few conferences where these two things aligns, and it is also with the treatment. I mean, you would have charities which, especially in the UK, would have a lot of visibility over there. But when you think about it, you wouldn't really see that much of an alignment. Like we have people from treatment, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, working with people in the industry who are in direct connection with the customers, seeing the data, talking with people, and then setting it up in a way that it will not only give you the limits, right, but also will give you something else to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I talked about this in one of the other Casino Guru interviews, where I said the industry kind of has that responsible gambling or responsible gaming or team department that's not part of or isn't as mixed in with everybody else. And I said the whole culture has to change, right? It has to change from the top down, bottom up, and side to side. And so you have to create an organization with that foundation if you're going to actually do, responsible gambling that is more impactful so that it really does align with what we see in treatment. Because we're at the far end of the continuum.
Yes.
It's already too late for many people by then, right? And you've got to figure out how to bring it earlier on the continuum.
When you say already too late for these people, do you think that, and you were talking about harm reduction before, do you think like there is a certain threshold which after it's reached, the person is not capable
Yeah.
of gambling in a, let's say, reasonable manner?
I mean, it's not that linear, right? It's more complex. When people are chasing losses, when they're, they can't stop, they win, but they can't cash out, all of
Yeah.
those things. Well, 10,000 was good, but I need the 20,000. That's kind of a mindset, and it's well researched and documented that the brain is actually altered.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's not the same part of the brain being activated anymore, which is why they can't stop. Okay. So when we see some people like that, that's when we say it's too late
Right.
because the brain has already been altered.
Fine.
Other people could benefit from harm reduction because we're helping them solve something else that they were avoiding. And so we're treating the whole person. And I think that's why it can't be just linear. It's got to be multifaceted because you got to treat the whole person and figure out what was gambling doing that was, what was it doing for them? Were they, allowed to, able to escape and avoid all their problems? Were they doing the dopamine hits because they also have an undiagnosed attention deficit disorder or something like that? Like, there's a lot more ways to explain it.
Right. I mean, you have answered a few questions which I've had already, but perhaps I'm going to ask like boldly. So how do you treat kind of a person like that? I mean,
Which one?
The one which has the brain that was already altered, and also in comparison with someone who is going down that road, but is not there yet.
Yeah. I like to say it's 3 focus areas. Helping people figure out how they spend their time, what's the access to gambling, and what's the access to money. And the access to gambling and access to money have to happen together. So a lot of times people will say, just put blocking software on.
That one is for the harm reduction, right?
It's for both.
For both. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, harm reduction is more how do I still gamble,
Yes.
but do it in a responsible way. So you wouldn't necessarily put blocking software on because you would still be gambling. Or you would because you would tell someone only to go in person to gamble because then you have to drive and then you have to leave and all of that, right? So you could do like bet blocker for someone. But most people that really need to abstain, you have to cut off all access to gambling and cut off access to money, at least early on. Because if somebody gave them a gift card to gamble, if they still had access to gambling, then they could still gamble even if you
Could be a trigger.
shut off the money, right? So you have to treat those together.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know to do that. They just pick one thing, like, hey, is this where we want to start? And it's like, no, you got to hit them with all of those. And so it can be kind of overwhelming at first when someone comes in and they're like, I really want to stop. And you're like, okay, here are all the things you have to do. We're going to self-exclude. We're going to do blocking software. We're going to figure out who's going to have access to your money. Maybe turn on alerts so that every time a transaction occurs, family member gets the alert. That makes anybody pause if they know a second pair of eyes are going to see what their money is, right? And then how do you spend your time? Well, a lot of them spent tons of time watching sports on TV, listening to podcasts about sports and athletes. Okay, now let's listen to podcasts about recovery. Let's now use an app called eVive or something like that, or Bet Breaker or something, because you're still going to be on your phone. So that's like 7 things I just told you that one person needs to do to get started.
Yeah, it's basically turning the whole life around. Because from what you're saying, I mean, it sounds that the person basically needs to start doing a lot of things differently.
They were doing gambling all the time.
Right, and it's, when you say like that, most of the stuff is basically like building those barriers, building those walls, doing those limits, self-exclusions. But what will make the person to feel better? What will make the person to feel better and decrease the urges? I mean, gradually when you do it, I understand that it will just go away, or should at some point. But there has to be something which that person will be going through in order to have the mindset which is somehow progressing. Like, yes, I am working towards getting rid of this.
I mean, part of it is the consequences. When the consequences are great enough and they're painful enough, it gets people's attention. And you hear that in people's lived experience stories. That's kind of like the foundation of it is, here's how bad it really got. And I had to remember that, and I had to remind myself how bad it really was. Some people even had to go to jail, in prison for it, to remember. Okay. So you've got to get them to feel those consequences, because that is a strong motivator to not keep doing that. And at the same time, then you have to build up their confidence that they are making better choices. And, little things. And you have to help rehearse with them how to say no, or how to tell their friends, I'm out for the season, kind of thing, when they want them to sports bet or what have you. It just depends on the individual too. Like, how do you help them get better? Which is why we're the Better Institute.
Right, yeah.
Right?
So there is a lot of talking.
A lot of talking.
I'm going to stay with treatment for a little while. How would you say is the treatment of gambling addiction different from other addictions?
That's a classic question.
Classic, right?
It is, because a lot of people will say, oh, I understand and know how to treat one addiction, so I know how to treat them all. And I'm like, ooh, run away, right?
Right, yeah.
Because you need the training. There's and it's a fuzzy number, but let's just, for conversation purposes, there's like 60% that's the same across all addictions. But the 40% is different, right? When you think about, drug addiction, you think about sex addiction, you think about gambling addiction, right? They all have the similar features: preoccupation, tolerance, consequences, right? And yet, how you treat them is very different. People need to manage money their whole life. When they have a gambling problem, they have to figure that out. People still have sex, right? And you have to teach them how to have sex, right? And so it's a strange thing to be like, put the tiger in the cage, but then take it out and walk it every day. And so that's what's different. With gambling, it's not self-limiting. So people will say, I went to a casino on a Friday and I missed work on Monday. Because they lost track of time. People would never do that. They wouldn't say, like, I just kept drinking and drinking and drinking, and the body shuts down eventually. I kept drugging and drugging. Nope. Body shuts down. There's
Gambling,
something
you can go.
You can go forever because you're not, ingesting anything. Now, most people will say you go until the money runs out, because that's the drug. But so that's an example of where it's very different. The stigma and the shame. Think about sex addiction, think about gambling addiction, compared to where we are with alcohol and drug addiction. There's so much more public awareness about drug and alcohol, funding, treatment, insurance, right? All of that across the globe, people understand, know how to treat it. People are still saying, we don't even know how to treat gambling problems, and yet it's getting really bad because of the online world.
Why do you think it is in this condition right now? Because gambling has been here since forever. I mean, not as widespread as it is now, but why it is like so undeveloped with gambling addiction compared to other addictions? It
was always siloed, right? We siloed mental health from substance use. We siloed gambling. It was always siloed. And, it takes a big movement and a lot of funding and restructuring to bring all those together. And then people specialize, which then further silos it. So gambling was just so socially acceptable. It was so normalized. I mean, you would say, do you gamble? And someone would say, no. And do you play the lottery? They're like, yeah, every day, right? And so even that's an example. Or would you give your kids a 6-pack of beer? Absolutely not. No. But you give them a scratch off at Christmas time.
Why not?
Right? They don't think about it. So it really shows a very different view. And then, like in the States, cannabis was being legalized around the same time that gambling was. And in particular states, like Connecticut was a good example, both of those went legal at the exact same time. The list of things for cannabis, of the things you have to do, can't do, all this stuff was like super long. For gambling, it was like this short. It was like, where's the protection? Oh, it's just gambling,
Yeah,
let it kind of. So you see that, being perpetuated in the culture still.
Yeah, I remember stories, and I also remember it from my childhood, like watching the results of the lottery every evening at 7. Like, no one was considering it gambling. No one was really thinking about it in that way.
Yeah.
And then when you consider that gambling is part of so many things in our life,
Yep.
you know, it's not. Why is gambling so fun? It's risk taking. People like to take risks. Kids like to take risks. Like, when it's gonna be switched to gambling, that's like a very thin line in my perception. But then, even if it is, no one is explaining that to you,
Right.
or no one was like as a part of growing up, as a part of tradition, you know, culture, like, this is gambling, now you put something in the risk, and I know it's exciting, but the outcome, you know, it's uncertain, and
Right.
it might feel good, it might feel bad, and this is what it does with you, but, you know, people just don't understand it, and they
Right.
do not talk about it.
Well, you know, if an example would be, you know, a couple generations before, kids had to play on the playground. And the monkey bars and everything else. And they had to learn, like, if you swing too much, you're going to fall on the ground, break your arm. They had to learn all that. Well, now the playgrounds are padded and everything, and, like, nobody can get hurt if they even tried. So they don't know how to negotiate and manage risk. And so then you fast forward, you give them a device 5 inches from their face all day long, and they don't know how to manage and negotiate risk.
Yeah.
And then we legalize and expand, and there's never been, even as a child, learning how to negotiate risk.
Yeah, and not only with gambling, but also with the use of social media,
Right.
with their time spent with the screen. I mean, there is
Yeah.
a risk itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of thinking about gambling as the understanding of risk taking and what it actually does with the individuals. But going back to the treatment side, yeah, circling back all the time with this. So we were discussing that it is undeveloped. You know, it's like the infrastructure is just not there. I mean, it's a different.
It's getting
state
better
by state.
But yeah, when you look at even the last 15 years, you know, in the United States, 15 years ago, insurance didn't cover it. The state had to have special state funding, and then you had to be have access to that funding in order to treat that person. So somebody else might just give them a different diagnosis so that they could just treat them, right?
Yeah.
And so then you move forward and you expand the legalization. Well, then there's social responsibility. And then everybody's trying to figure out, what does that need to look like? How much is enough treatment money? What's too little, right? What if you don't spend all of it? Then the DSM moved gambling disorder under addiction, and now insurance companies had to look and acknowledge it. So then there was that, and it's very interesting over the last 15 years how much has evolved, which is kind of sad because it tells you what a state it was in 15 years ago.
But people talk a lot about evolution, and I align on that as well. And it's not like it would happen itself. You know, people have to do things in order to accelerate it and in order to progress it. And it brings me to another large area of your focus, on which we luckily work together.
Yes.
And it is the IPGGC